Showtime is here, no time to fear. Karel is so near because showtime is here. So on with the show, let's give it a go. Karel is the one that you need to know. Now it's showtime.
Virginia is shaking things up in the Senate and the House. We're going to tell you how. There's been an attack in the Strait of Hormuz, and for the love of our pets, we're talking all things pets today as well. So don't go anywhere. It is the Karel Show. I am Karel, so very glad you are joining me. Look, I would be lying if I said to you that my attention is the show today. But part of one of my topics is the reason why my attention is not the show today. We are going to be talking today about facts and figures about our love affair with pets and how we kind of have a schizophrenic relationship with them, in so much as we love them, and yet there are people who get mad if you take them certain places. So we're going to talk about all that. Also, Virginia voted to gerrymander and on their map temporarily to give Democrats an advantage, possibly 4 more seats. Even if it's challenged in court, it'll be thrown out because they voted for it. So that's that. And even though Trump extended the ceasefire in the Strait of, or in Iran, a war he says we're winning, Iran today shot at other boats. So that's making other people scared to go through the strait. So we are going to talk about that. Ember, my service animal, my love, my life, is currently under anesthesia, so I am just frantic. I have my phone right here. I thought it was great. Just 20 minutes ago, they said, oh, we've finished the dental. Dr. B is going to call you. Well, the call was not the worst, but not the best. They did the dental x-rays, and they found that she has what's called a reabsorption lesion on her back molar. And that is a painful, progressive condition where the body is actually eating away the root of the tooth and the tooth itself and trying to reabsorb the tooth. We don't know why it happens to dogs. About 40% or 2 out of 5 dogs will get this condition. It could explain why she's been smacking, why she's had a trembling jaw. It could explain some behavioral changes. It could explain a lot. Also, she's got 2 loose front teeth. So those are going to come out. So she'll be able to sing now for Christmas. All I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth. It worries me that she's losing a major molar. She lost one 4 years ago on the other side, although she's fine with that being gone. So she's going to have a major extraction. He has to section the tooth. It's got 2 roots, so he has to section it. They have to be careful. She's a small dog. They could break her jaw, although he said he never has. So there's all this going on to the tune of $2,100. Thank God for credit cards, because I don't think insurance is going to cover it. So she is currently under anesthesia. He said it will take about an hour. That was at 10 o'clock. So sometime during the show or right after, I should get a text to say that they've removed it. He's also doing skull x-rays to make sure that she doesn't have TMJ or any brain issues. And they already did a full body x-ray, and her lungs and heart look great. Her bladder stones, she has 1 less because she passed it. So that's what's going on with her. You know, Luther Vandross and Dionne Warwick sang it. A chair is still a chair even when there's no one sitting there. But Ember is not by my side right now in this room. Her pillow is right there. And she is under anesthetic, and the most dangerous part is when they come out of it. So we still are not out of the woods. They say she's doing great, though. I'm sorry. You know, today's show is really going to be about facing your biggest fears. What is your we all have big fears. We have the little things that we are afraid of, don't want to have happen, etc. Then we have the big ones, our big, big fears. What are some of your biggest fears? Mine, of course, is something premature happening to Ember. I know she's aging and will die one day, but I hope that she lives 15, 17, even 20 years. She's only 10. So obviously, my biggest fear is Ember passing prematurely. But I have others, including about Donald Trump. What is your biggest fear about Donald Trump? So when we come back, let's talk a little about those because they dictate our lives, including our
if you're
public
not visiting
lives.
RillyKarel.com daily, you're missing out. Get the podcast, videos, and the blog, including recipes at RillyKarel.com. That's really KAREL.com.
Showtime is here, no time to fear. Karel is so near because showtime is here. So on with the show, let's give it a go. Karel is the one that you need to know.
So Ember will be coming home today, but with one less molar and two less front teeth. But this morning when I woke up, I said, what today is really about is you're going to face one of your biggest fears. And I don't think we talk about that enough on talk radio because it dictates a lot of what we do, including our politics, including how we vote. For instance, Virginia just redistricted, and it's going to give a advantage to Democrats. Now, why did people vote that way? Because their biggest fear is that Donald Trump has encouraged other states, Republican states, to redistrict, and the Republicans will hold a supermajority. So people in Virginia went out and voted to make sure that doesn't happen, because that's one of their biggest fears. So today was about me facing one of my biggest fears, which is a premature death of Ember. And it's not over yet. She is still under anesthesia. She's having a major molar removed. He said if it doesn't go well, if it doesn't pull out easily, because they often can break because they're brittle, the tooth is actually dying because it's being reabsorbed, that he might have to drill it out. So, scared. I'm scared at this moment. So what are some of yours? My biggest fears my whole life have dealt with abandonment issues. My biggest fear with Andrew was that HIV or AIDS was going to give him an opportunistic infection and he was going to die. I never feared a giant blood clot that was formed by the medicine that he was taking and a hospital ignoring the symptoms and not treating it. But I feared Andrew's death. That was one of my biggest fears for 11 and a half years. And then I had to face it. And today, I fear Ember's premature death. And I'm facing it right now. I'm facing that fear. With Donald Trump, my biggest fear about Donald Trump isn't Donald Trump. My biggest fear is that he will do something irreparable to the planet or to us, that he will break something unfixable, that he will launch a nuclear weapon as he asked for the nuclear codes last week, that he will get us into a larger world war where there will be huge economic strife and Great Depression era type stuff where there's, Hoovervilles or Trumpvilles everywhere and millions of homeless instead of, so my biggest fear with him is that he'll break something unfixable, that he'll launch nuclear weapons and get us into a nuclear war, or he'll completely break something, our allies or the planet, that he'll do something that irrevocably breaks the planet. That is my biggest fear about him. Not his followers, not him, but the fact that he could do something that isn't able to be fixed, or that would cause great strife for you and I, where people lose their homes, become homeless, can't eat, because food, is either unobtainable or the price for it is just out of reach. That could happen under him. Nuclear winter could happen. These are realistic scenarios. And so that's one of my biggest fears when it comes to Donald Trump. Another big fear I have is open heart surgery. My aorta is growing. It's at 4.4. If it gets to 5.0, which I haven't had it measured this year, it could be bigger. Because I was supposed to go tomorrow and for Friday, but now Ember. Anyway, so my biggest fear is that it's going to get to that point. They won't be able to do it T-vol through my groin area or go in through the side, and they'll have to crack me open and put me on heart-lung bypass and all of that. That fear has kept me awake many a night. And even though it's off in the future and or may never happen, it is one of my biggest fears, having to have open chest surgery to replace my aorta or part of it. What are some of yours? What are some of the things that you fear absolutely most? Another large fear of mine is income. That Social Security, which Tommy Tuberville just said was the biggest scam around. You're not going to win votes that way, but that he's out there running for governor saying Social Security is one of the biggest scams around. That it doesn't last for my lifetime. Or that my SAG-AFTRA pension, which is tied to my union, which is a union based with revenues from the entertainment industry, which is paid for by actors and actresses and technicians actually paying into the union. So as there's less actors and actresses making money, there's less money going into the union. I fear a loss of income in the future. Now, these are founded fears, by the way. That's not irrational. I'm not irrational right now to be worried that Ember has been under anesthesia for over an hour and has another hour to go. That's not irrational. I'm not irrational to fear open heart surgery because I may have to have it one day. I'm not irrational to fear Donald Trump actually launching a nuke, getting us in a world war, breaking our economy so it's unfixable. These are all things within his power to do, and it looks like he's not afraid to do them. So what are some of your biggest fears? Truly. I'd love to see you in the chat room at youtube.com/Willie Karel. Because for me, they involve A, the loss of my life or Ember's, B, loss of income, or loss of a limb. Health-wise, we all fear, like stage 4 cancer diagnosis, dementia. That's a big fear for everybody as they age. Different health issues that affect you as you age. As you age, you start worrying about a lot more things than when you were younger because it's realistic they could happen. So what are some of yours? Like with Donald Trump, what is your biggest fear about Donald Trump? What is the biggest fear? Mine is that he'll break something that can't be fixed. If you launch a nuke, there's no going back. You've done it. The world is going to respond. Period. And we don't get to say how they respond. And he's already asked for the nuclear codes according to reporting. So that's a big fear of mine. Nuclear war started by Donald Trump. A global recession that leads to another Great Depression. That's a very real scenario that could occur. And today, my biggest fear is Ember. That she won't wake up from the anesthesia, or that something will go wrong with the extractions, or when he x-rays her brain and skull, he'll find something else. That's my biggest fear. As for me, it's open heart surgery. What are some of yours? What are some of your biggest fears? And do you find some are irrational and others are, because there's irrational fears and then there's rational fears. It's an irrational fear to worry we're going to be struck by an asteroid and all of us will be killed. It hasn't happened in thousands of years, and we have detection systems now and all of that. So That's kind of an irrational fear. And there's lots of fears we have that are irrational. But then there are others that are very rooted and have a foundation in reality. Now, I'm not saying you live a fear-based life. Most of us do not live a fear-based life. But under it all, we are human, and we have big fears. I don't think you're human if you don't. Sandy in the chat room, she says, my biggest fear is that Trump has changed the country forever and we'll never get back to our previous standing in the world. That's a very real fear. That's very real. What else is going on up here? I'll check the chat room in a second. YouTube.com/Willie Karel. So what are some of the things you really, truly, things that keep you awake at night? All politicians talk about that. Well, I want to talk about the things that keep you awake at night. Those are called your biggest fears. The things that make you... I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning, and that's it. I could not go back to sleep. I just hugged Ember for hours because I knew, even though there was a slight chance, a moderate chance, a 2% chance, that today could be our last day. Last night, we won't be playing ball like that for a while now. That was our last ball playing for a while. So today I'm facing one of my biggest fears. And with Trump every day, we have to face some of our biggest fears. As a gay person, I don't want to say I fear this. Well, I do fear this. I fear that the damage he is doing and that MAGA is doing to the gay community of America will not be able to be fixed in my lifetime. I really fear that. The progress. When I turned 50, I felt we were finally making progress. We had a handle on AIDS. We had treatments, not a cure, but at least we had treatments that were extending lives almost indefinitely. Protease inhibitors, now there's a vaccine, a PrEP vaccine where it can basically stop the spread almost. So when I turned 50, gay marriage came around, therapies for AIDS came around. The attitude in America sort of softened. Gays were showing up on more television shows and in more movies. And suddenly it was, just more okay to be gay. And then bam. In the course of 8 years, Trump has managed to turn that all around. Trans people are being killed at record numbers. Record numbers of states are passing anti-gay legislation, passing anti-trans legislation, on and on and on. And I'm worried that the Democrats are going to abandon the gay community because they'll say, well, we want to win, so we don't want to go and do divisive issues. That's a big worry of mine, that the only advocates we've had in Washington, D.C., the Democrats, are going to cut and run just so they can win. And there's already indications of that from people even like Cory Booker. So, who I've always gotten the gay vibe from, by the way. So, that is a fear of mine, that the damage Donald Trump is doing to the gay community will not be undone in my lifetime. It's one of the reasons I either want to move to a city like Palm Springs or Wilton Manors in Florida or Portland or Seattle, cities that are very pro-gay and have a large gay community. Because even though the rest of the country may go to shit when it comes to gay rights, at least in those places, they'll still be rights. So what are what are some of your big fears? Put the comments down below, because we got to get comments going down below. Let's see what it is. So, by the way, chatters, pay no attention to that Frank Aguilar in the chat room who said it's awesome what Donald Trump has done to the LGBTQIA. That's the kind of person I would like to see spontaneously drop dead, because I have no more tolerance for them. I have no more tolerance for bigots or haters or whatever. I hope he strokes out. I hope he has a miserable life. I hope he has a stroke and becomes paralyzed and can't move and is reliant on public aid and gets shit health care. I no longer wish these people well. I no longer try to change their minds. No, you're going to come in a gay host chat room and say that what Trump is doing is great for, in the LGBTQ area, then you really deserve a horrible life. You deserve what you get because you're wishing it on other people. Trans people are dying. Pulse nightclub was 10 years ago this week. Trans people, gay people are being killed in record numbers, are suffering again. And this person's going to say he thinks it's great. And he's not alone. So I wish them terrible lives. I wish them horrible, horrible lives of misery and of just horribleness. I don't wish them well. I know that's not a Christian thing to say, but I'm not a Christian. I'm tired of wishing people well that wish me harm. I'm over it. I wish them misery.
Patreon is the way to show you care. Subscribe today if you dare. Keep the show on there. Patreon is the way. Now it's showtime.
I don't wish you harm. I'm a Christian nationalist Republican. By that very statement means you wish me harm, you moron. What a moron. First of all, there's no such thing as Christian nationalism. It goes against the Bible. But they don't really understand the Bible. They don't read the Bible. They don't understand that nationalism goes against the Bible. So, and I'm not going to take the time to explain to them why. They can go do their own research, ask their minister, whatever. But a Christian should never pledge allegiance to a flag. Okay? Period. Christians should never pledge allegiance to a flag because God said, "Let there be no gods before me. Thou shalt not worship graven images." A flag is a graven image. To God, pledging allegiance to a flag means you're not pledging allegiance solely to the God. And that God is a vengeful God. That God is a non-forgiving God. That God takes out the wrath, since they like to quote the Old Testament. The New Testament's very forgiving and love thy neighbor and all that. The Old Testament is go against me and I will fucking kill you. But they don't understand that Christian nationalism is an oxymoron and also against the Constitution. So not only is it against their Bible, but it's against the Constitution. They don't understand that. They don't get it. They're as bad as Islam. Anyone that wants a Christian nationalism they want a theocracy. And that goes against the U.S. Constitution. We are a democratic republic, not a theocracy. And freedom of religion also means freedom from religion. But they don't understand that. They think Christian nationalism is not the same as Sharia law. It is. So if they want to live under Sharia law, they should leave the United States. Go find another country, an African nation like Somalia, that has no government whatsoever. Set one up and make it Christian nationalism and move all your Christian nationals there. Because in this country, we are not a theocracy. We are a democratic republic. Our founders were not Christians. They were deists. Most modern day Christians would not have approved of our founding fathers' religious beliefs. But again, they don't understand that because they are cult members. They are a member of the cult of MAGA and the cult of Trump because they are weak-minded individuals. So they come into a gay person's chat room and they type in all caps that I am a Christian nationalist. And they think they're proclaiming something profound or important, and all they're really saying is, I'm an American. I don't believe in the U.S. Constitution. I don't believe in the American way of life. E pluribus unum, from many, one. They don't even know what that saying means. And yet it's on all the money. They have no idea that it means from many, one. So, when I hear that stuff, I just feel sorry for them because they're ignorant. They're very ignorant people. And I no longer wish them well. I wish them to leave. Get out. I have been told as a gay person my whole life, if you don't like life in America, you can leave. I've been told that as a liberal, as a gay person. That's always MAGA's answer and Republicans and all that. Well, you can always leave. Well, they can leave. Because I actually stand for what the country is about. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI, not DUI, which is what Trump's liquor cabinet is made up of. Just a whole bunch of people that have DUIs, are drunks. There are no more. And they think Donald Trump is a Christian. They think the cabinet, Peter Hegsbreth, who stands there and quotes a Bible verse from Pulp Fiction and drops bombs on people, they think that's Christian. They think blowing up Iran is a Christian thing to do. That's how stupid these people are. They think discriminating against gays is Christian. They think telling a woman not to have an abortion is Christian. That's how stupid they are. They want a theocracy, so they should leave. I'm not telling them they can't have one. They just can't have one here. Because we're a democratic republic with a constitution that specifically says we are not a theocracy. But again, they don't understand that. They don't understand that. And that's fine. They're allowed to not understand. They're just not allowed to make laws about it. And that's the other thing they mistake about America. MAGA can exist in America. Christian nationalists can exist in America. They just can't make laws about it. That's what they don't get. From many, one. They can have their beliefs. They just can't impose them on other people. That's where the disconnect is. So today I really did want to talk about the love of pets. As you know, I'm spending $2,100 today on Ember. Well, let me rephrase. Chase Bank, my Chase Sapphire card, is spending $2,100 today on Ember. I have a lot of very interesting facts and figures about dogs and cats and pets. They're really interesting, by the way. And they really show that these animals but have worked their way into our consciousness. But not only that, I don't think many of you know how responsible, pets are, animals are for our success as a species. Okay? I don't think you understand this. 86% of pet owners say pets positively impact their mental health. Pets reduce stress hormones like cortisol, anxiety, and depression. They provide companionship and unconditional love. 70% of people surveyed say that. We're in a loneliness epidemic right now, and pets are one of the proven antidotes. In fact, in America now, seniors are turning to pets for companionship more than other seniors because they can't get out, they can't make friends, can't get a date when you're 80, but a pet will love you. When we come back, I'm going to give you a lot more really interesting facts about our love affair with animals and, why we should continue it and how it's benefited us.
It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karel Cast on your favorite streaming service. You're listening to the Karel Cast. Driving you home or driving you crazy. It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karel Cast on your favorite streaming service. You're listening to the Karel Cast. Driving you home or driving you crazy.
As we talk about pets today, I want to remind you that I am a vegan, not just because of the health benefits, which are huge, but because I could no longer reconcile that I would be appalled if someone ate a dog or a cat. You know, I'd be like, oh my God, they're barbaric. I think the Chinese and others that eat dogs are barbaric. But then I would be okay eating a pig, which is smarter than a dog. I would be okay eating a cow or eating a deer or other animals. Sentient creatures should not be eaten. Octopus. I used to eat calamari and octopus. I would never do that now. Octopi are some of the most intelligent creatures on the planet. We know they have feelings. We know they have intellect. In fact, there's many scientists that say if humans were not the dominant species on the planet, octopi would be. Whales, seals, sea lion, fish. Fish are fish food, okay? Fish have to eat other fish because they can't jump out the ocean and find other food. But if you're not a fish, you shouldn't be eating fish, okay? If you're not a lion, you shouldn't be eating a gazelle. Because as a human, we know better, all right? And these are sentient beings who have a right, by the way. They have a right. In many countries, they are now declaring that fish, octopi, regular animals have a right, have rights, including rights to their domain. We do not own the oceans. They're not ours. They belong to the creatures that live there. We should not invade the oceans. We should not destroy the oceans. They are not ours. We should enjoy it, take a boat on top of it, scuba dive in it, but we should not kill anything that comes from the sea. In fact, we shouldn't kill any other animal because we don't have to anymore. As humans, we have evolved to a place where we no longer need to murder, and it is murder, sentient beings for food. And if you're a Christian, reconcile to me, thou shalt not kill. God did not say in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill humans. God said, thou shalt not kill. Period. So we know that pets truly help our physical health. We know this. We know they combat loneliness. Pet interaction can lower blood pressure, improve heart health. Dog owners are more likely to meet exercise guidelines. They don't just comfort us, they literally make us live longer. Pets reduce loneliness, increase social interaction, and give people purpose. Not having Ember around here today, there's a huge presence missing from this house. And my schedule is totally off because of all the things that I have to do for her. I don't have that purpose anymore. It feels weird to not have that, by the way. That is especially powerful for seniors or people living alone because we know having a sense of purpose keeps you alive longer. We know that. Now, dogs were domesticated. They were the first domesticated animal. It happened over 15,000 years ago. They helped us hunt more effectively, guard our camps, track prey, and provide warmth, actual warmth and protection. Humans plus dogs became the super team as a predator species. Without dogs, Neanderthal could have taken over. We are the dominant species on the planet because of our alliance with dogs. If we had not domesticated dogs, and dogs us, then we may not have become the dominant species. Cooperation with dogs likely helped humans outcompete other species, including Neanderthals, strengthen social bonding, and communication skills. Now, cats have a very different domestication route. Cats actually domesticated themselves, which is not a surprise to any cat owner. We'll talk about that when we come back. Cats actually domesticated themselves. I'll tell you how. We had to domesticate
If you're not
dogs.
visiting reallykarel.com daily, you're missing out. Get the podcast videos and the blog, including recipes, at reallykarel.com. That's really KAREL.com.
Showtime is here, no time to fear. Karel is so near because showtime is here. So on with the show, let's give it a go. Karel is the one that you need to know.
All right, so cats domesticated themselves, and really they did it for their own advantage. Humans once we started farming, humans stored grains. Grains attracted rodents. Cats love to eat rodents. So cats figured, hey, if we become friends with the humans, we're going to get to eat the rodents. The humans tolerated the cats because they were doing them a service. They actually helped them get rid of vermin and varmints. And so the cats started coming around humans, started eating the rodents that in the stored grain. And humans were like, oh, okay. Suddenly humans started feeding them, and cats were like, hey, this ain't bad. And so 10,000 years ago, dogs were 15,000 years ago. They've been domesticated longer than cats. 10,000 years ago, in the Middle East, by the way, that's where they first revered cats. Egypt, as you know, there are many feline gods. Cats chose humans. They did. But they chose them because there was an advantage for the cats. They got fed. They got housed, they had safe spaces to stay, so they're like, okay, we can do this, we can put up with people. And that's why cats just tolerate humans, by the way. They're like, look, we chose to be here, okay? You had nothing to do with this. They're not obedient, okay? They coexist. And that's the difference. Dogs knew that if they became loyal and obedient, that our acceptance of them, our feeding of them, our training of them, our coexisting with them would become stronger. Cats, they just want to coexist. They could take humans or leave humans. And you know this if you're a cat owner. You know this. Now, in America, 66% of U.S. households have at least one pet. That's 90 million homes. Do you know why I never trusted Donald Trump? No one in his family has a pet. I never trust a person that doesn't like a cat, a dog, a guinea pig, a hamster, a goldfish, whatever. I don't trust people who don't love animals. Nor do I trust people that my dog doesn't love. By the way, it's past 11. The vet called me at 10 and said that, it was going to be an hour. And I haven't heard back from the vet. So now I'm getting really, really worried. Okay. But I really am right now. I'm freaking out a little bit right now. I'm trying not to freak out right now, but I'm freaking out. He should have already texted and said, okay, the teeth are out. Okay. So 66% of U.S. households, about 90 million homes, and 95 million households in a new survey. The most common animals are dogs, 65 million households, followed by cats, 46 million households. The total number of dogs and cats in America is about 190 million. And there's been a cultural shift on how we view them. 97% of owners consider their pets family. Not ownership, family. It's not like I own that dog, I own that cat. No, that's my kid, basically. And that drives some people, especially parents, crazy. Online, you'll see all these people, stop comparing your dog to my child. Your dog is not a child. Well, fuck you. Yes, she is. And I am as scared right now, this moment, because they haven't texted, about what's going on with Ember as I would be if it were a human child. So don't tell me that she's not my kid, okay? Because she is. Our annual spending on pets in the United States is $160 billion with a B. And I'm spending $2,100 of that today, honey. On average per year, people spend $2,500 on a dog and $1,500 on a cat. I'm spending that today. I probably spend $8 to $10 grand a year on Ember. Her insurance is $240, her food, and just everything else. 3 in 10 people spend more on pets than they do their own health because they're an emotional priority. Isn't that something? So their emotional support, their health support, their family, their social connection. But here's the schizophrenia. We often treat them as an inconvenience, a luxury, or a liability. They are none of those things. You know? We trust pets with our hearts, but not with our housing policies. We allow landlords to charge people extra money every month because they have a pet. That's unfair. And while we don't have universal health care for ourselves, we should have universal health care for ourselves and our pets. I've always said if I was Elon Musk, I would set up sliding scale veterinary hospitals where no one would be turned away. Many people have to put down their pets. There's a lot of people that could not have a $2,100 dental done on their pet. They would just let it suffer. I would never let that happen if I were president. I would start sliding scale animal hospitals. You pay based on your income. Period. I just would. I totally would. People get all upset if you bring a pet on an airplane, but they have no problem with babies crying and spreading disease. They get angry if you bring your dog into a restaurant or to a store, if it's a service dog. They get mad at that. Why? It's not bothering you. It's not hurting you. It's not spreading any germs. In every other country, they don't have a problem with this. In America, I constantly see people complaining, why are dogs allowed on planes? Why are you allowed on a plane? Have you ever seen one video of a pet crashing out on a plane? Nope. But I see videos every day of drunk humans crashing out on planes, or just assholes crashing out on planes. In a restaurant, have you ever seen one video of a dog running amok and causing a problem? Nope. But how many times have you seen people throwing drinks at people at the counters or doing God knows what? And my biggest pet peeve, there is research after research after research that shows we heal better when we have our pet or a pet around us. We simply heal better. And in many European nations now, hospitals are not only allowing people to bring their pets to visit or actually stay with them, they're also getting ward pets, like a cat that roams the ward. Many senior nursing homes and senior care homes now have resident pets because the people that live in the assisted living or the nursing care do so much better if there's a pet there. Isn't that something? So we need to rethink our social policy about pets and have it not be so schizophrenic. We can, on one hand, dedicate our lives to them, and then on the other hand, exclude them from our lives. That's just ridiculous thinking. And I don't want to hear about irresponsible pet owners or irresponsible pets, because there are just as many or more irresponsible parents of real children. Okay? Yes, there's always going to be someone with an unruly dog, an untrained dog, an unruly cat, an untrained gerbil, whatever. There's always, Richard Gere, there's always going to be that person, but that's not the majority. A majority of pet owners want to be responsible with their pets. A majority, not all. So we know all of their benefits, and yet we still exclude them from areas where they could be of great help, in healthcare in particular. They set people in the emergency rooms. They found that stress, anger, and fighting in the emergency rooms went down if there was an emotional support animal in the emergency room, meaning out in the lobby area. They had people come through in the UK with emotional support animals through the emergency room, the A&E. And what they found was that violence and anger went down. Frustration levels went down. We know this. We have the evidence. Colonel Angus from the chat room says the VA hospital has a few retrievers. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. You know? Now look, I'm a gay guy. I don't have kids. I have no problem with kids. I don't mind screaming children. We were all a kid. When I'm on an airplane and I hear a screaming baby, I don't care. I really do not care. Why? Because we were all babies and we all screamed. You know, I don't care. If it's going on for hours, I'll put on my headphones. That's what they're for. You know, shut it out. I don't care. They're babies. I don't care when kids run amok. And when I say run amok, your kid should be controlled. But you know what I mean. If a kid is just playing, harmlessly playing and having fun, why stop? Why get all mad at that? They're kids. Let kids be kids. Let them run, let them play, let them be loud, let them throw fits. They're kids. Now, I don't mean to excess. Don't let your child knock over stuff in the grocery store and throw things off the shelves and all of that. I mean, if a kid is being loud, if they're singing at the top of their lungs somewhere, or they're just crying, so what? They're kids. Let them. Okay? Let them. Don't ban them. You know, are there some places kids shouldn't be? Sure, they shouldn't be at a bar. You know, like at night, like at 11 o'clock at night. You shouldn't have an 8-year-old at a bar. Okay? But if you want, you know, in Ireland, you can bring kids into the pub. And they're fine. They have a problem with alcoholism, but they're fine. You know, they don't bring them in at night. You don't have kids in there at midnight. But during the day, you walk into the pub, you want to have a drink, you want to have a Guinness, you walk in with your kid. No one, the society doesn't collapse. The same with dogs. The same, you know, if you've got a well-trained dog and you want to bring it to the pub, bring it to the pub. If you've got a well-trained dog and you want to bring it to the restaurant, bring it to the restaurant. You want to bring it on the plane, bring it on the plane. What do I care? God, will you please text me and tell me my little girl is okay? God. I'm on pins and needles here. So we know all of their benefits, okay? We do. And I think as a society, we need to start acting upon that. In other words, we need to realize that they are a cultural phenomenon that is not going away. Do you know that pet health spending is the #1 source of medical expansion now? Drug companies are in fact expanding into pet health. They're doing research with dog medicine that is transferring to humans, including dog longevity. So they're starting to go, cancer treatments are being done on dogs that are now being done on humans. You know, I mean, and when I look at that, it should be for all animals. You know, all animals deserve to live and to live happy. Elephants deserve to live and live happy. Giraffes deserve to live and live happy. And they deserve all the care we can give them. If there's an elephant that's sick, we should take care of it. If there's a giraffe that's sick, we should take care of it. You know, if there's a plague spreading through birds, we should fix it. Because we're connected to them. The notion that we're not connected to our pets, It's like, I can barely think right now. I can barely think right now. Because of them not. The vet called me at 10, said it takes about an hour. It's 11:15. Why haven't you texted me and said we've removed her teeth? She's coming out of anesthesia. What the fuck is going on? So I'm, right now, my heart, I'm panic stricken at the moment. I am. Because this is the most dangerous time right now. The extraction and then the getting off the anesthesia. I am just terrified. I mean, right now in my head, I think he's not calling me because something's gone wrong and he's trying to save her life. Oh, is this them? No, not them. Damn! Oh, damn. Not them. Oh, well.
Patreon is the way to show you care. Subscribe today if you dare. Keep the show on there. Patreon is the way. Now it's showtime.
Oh, I was just reading in the chat room about someone who took their 5-year-old. You should be able to take your 5-year-old anywhere. As long as your 5-year-old is well behaved, they should be able to go anywhere. Again, our relationship with pets is mirrored in our relationship with children. We want people to have children. Okay, we do. We need them to. But we don't make it easy for them. We don't welcome children everywhere. We don't subsidize people to have children, and we should. We should make their lives a little easier. And I know everyone's like, why should their life be easier just because they choose to procreate? Because we need humans. Okay, we need people. I need straight people to keep making gay people. Gay people don't make gay people. Only straight people can make gay people. So I need them to. So this notion that, there are places kids shouldn't be. Where? Where should a kid not be? If I had a child, they would go to theater, opera, they would go to classical music from 6 years old on up. They would be on Broadway, they would be at musicals, they would be in the library, they'd find dining restaurants, they would be everywhere so they could learn how to behave in every situation. The same with my pet. Ember sleeps on my lap, and, whenever we go to a restaurant, there she is, just sound asleep on my lap. She never bothers anybody. She doesn't, cause a ruckus. Most of the time, people don't know she's there. So, a couple comments I want you to leave down below. What is your biggest fear, or a few of your biggest fears? When it comes to the country, when it comes to your personal life. What are some of your biggest fears? Second of all, what is your view of pets in America? Because there are many who say, you shouldn't treat them like children. They're not children. They're just dogs. I hate people who say it's just a dog. You're not supposed to leave your pet for longer than 4 hours. They get lonely. People say, it's just a dog. No. It's a sentient being that has emotions. You brought it into your world. I hate when people have animals and they don't have pet insurance. And I used to be one of those people. Because then you might have to put it down because you can't afford the care. That's terrible. And no one should ever have to do that. I've had to do that when I was 18. So no one should ever have to do that. So we need to change how we think about pets. Because to many, they are family. And, and you're like, well, that's fine. They can treat them like family. I don't have to. Yeah, you do. When you see someone with a pet, you should acknowledge to them, that's their kid. And they will fight for that child and they will defend their pet. Look, you can try to punch me or whatever and I'll just walk away or try to calm it down or whatever. You hit my dog, we're fighting. Period. That's it. I'm not pulling away and calling police. I'm going to fuck you up. Same as if you were to hit my child. So we really need to start changing. We shouldn't charge people extra for kids or pets when they rent a unit. There should be no extra fee for kids or pets. They're part of our lives, the notion. I hate those policies. All right. By the way, a lot of you worry about homeless and their pets. There was a survey. Homeless pets are often very healthy. And that's because of the amount of walking that the homeless person does. The pet gets a lot of exercise. So they're often healthy. And there are many vets who will take care of pets for homeless people, give them shots, give them food, give them basic care. And I love those vets. And there are many charities set up that you can give money to that they do outreach to homeless people with pets. Whenever I see a homeless person with a pet, I feel worse for the animal than I do for the person. The person chooses to be homeless. The dog or cat doesn't. I've seen a few with cats, by the way. A few homeless people with cats at the park. But mostly dogs. But I have seen cats. I really want Dr. B to call me. It's 11:21. I talked to him right before I went on air, an hour and 20 minutes ago. I have not, I'm going to call them as soon as I'm off air. I'm going to say, hey, he said he'd call me in an hour. How are things going? I have gotten no updates. They were giving me updates every 10 minutes. Oh, dear. If anything happens to her, I can't think about that. I can't think about it. Can't think. She's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. I was expecting a text during the show. I was. And it hasn't come through. So I'll be calling as soon as I'm off air. Because I'll say, well, he said he'd call me. It takes about an hour. That was an hour and a half ago. How are things going? All right. Thank you all in the chat room at youtube.com/reallykarel. Thank you all you patrons at patreon.com/reallykarel. Someone in the chat room has guinea pigs. I used to have cavies. They're called cavies. My guinea pig, Mr. Guinea, that was his name. Mr. Guinea, if he heard me go in the refrigerator, he knew there was lettuce in there and carrots. So whenever he heard the refrigerator door open, guinea pigs make a sound. They go, voot, voot, voot. So when I would open the refrigerator door, no matter where he was in the house, Mr. Guinea would be all, voot, voot, voot. And then I had a hamster, Noel. Got him at Christmas. And one time, his cheeks were huge, and I thought he was all swollen up. We brought him to the vet, and the vet squeezed, and birdseed came out. And they said he has pouches, and he has filled them up with seed. I thought he was dying. I thought he had goiter or something. But he was okay. He was good. God, I'm worried about Ember. I'm so worried right now, I can't even tell you. I am beside myself with worry. I'm going to call them just as soon as... I should call them right now. I don't even care about being on air. Because I don't want them to call and say, well, we're very sorry, but Ember arrested under anesthesia, or we were taking out her tooth and that's a possibility. Oh, God. I am Karel. Be how you want to be. Be who you want to be so it doesn't hurt anybody. I'll see you tomorrow, unless if I'm not here, it could mean something. Meanwhile, I'm going to press dial the minute the credits start. So, yeah.
It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karel Cast on your favorite streaming service.
Your call may be recorded for quality assurance. Just a reminder, Pet Health is closed on Saturdays. To support our
You're listening to the Karel Cast. Driving you home or driving you crazy. It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karel Cast on your favorite streaming service.
Showtime is here.